come to my show, you were able to see the entire production process and what it's like to set up. And so thank you for being patient with us and just kind of kicking it at my place.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so impressive. Like, as soon as I walked in, I already felt the vibe and like the energy of the plants and everything. I gotta give a shout out to the plants. Like, yeah, because my dad, like I was telling you earlier, when he retired, he just like grabbed his hobby of like creating the space to be like his garden. So yeah, and like shout out to you for, you know, doing what you do. Shout out to T, you know, y'all are just doing great things. So I'm just honored to be in this space and, you know, just share some moments together.
Thanks. You got to shout out to my baby Dan because he's the one who takes care of all the plants. Yeah. Because I don't, like, they would die. They would die. He's like training me. He's training me to take care of the plants.
You're learning.
I am learning.
Yeah.
I'm actually learning plant names. And both my mom, like my whole mom side of the family is our gardeners. My grandmother had this beautiful garden in East Palo Alto where she was growing cabbages up the driveway, corn, green beans. Like we used to have to like see the green bean, or I don't know what it's called. We had to do something with the green beans as a kid. So it was like growing up on a little farm, and she grew up on a farm in Louisiana. So my mom and her sister, they're big gardeners, especially my aunt. She has a really nice garden too where she lives. So it just didn't pass on to me.
It skipped the generation.
But because of Dan, he's kind of bringing it back into my life.
There you go.
So it's yeah.
See, I believe like in another life I was probably like this herbalist or something. Like I would tend to the plants and like like I was also told, like I had like this like past life reading or something. It was told that I would create dyes out of the plants and the herbs, like, you know, like color, like play with the color of the plants and like create these like. So I thought that was pretty interesting and everything. And I feel like our ancestors too are like farmers, you know, like gardeners and stuff.
It's like the hunter gatherer.
Yeah.
Well, the hunter gatherer, I guess gatherers probably weren't gardening, but then agriculture came in and we started to create a more sustainable life.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's awesome too, that you know, like you say that you're trying to learn the names of the plants and everything. They have an app for that too. I think I like downloaded it.
Yeah.
And then like you can just scan the plant and then it just tells you like what it is.
We did, well, the people at home can't see, but we did that for, actually I probably could use a camera, but we have a plant over there. You can see this looks kind of like a bamboo in our little area. And so that one, that one was dying, and so we used one of those apps to scan it and it told us what we need to do to get it healthy again.
That's so cool.
And so I think for that one we just need to water it more. We weren't watering it as much as we needed to. And so now it's doing better. It's not as yellow as it was. Dan probably fixed it.
It's dead in the cemetery.
It's not a plant cemetery. I like to call it a plant hospital.
Okay. You're reviving it. Yeah.
He is reviving me. I don't do anything. I'm like a bunk nurse or that freaking ghetto black RN who's just like, what you want? Can I help you?
But like two other things I wanted to talk about too about plants is like they have like such a healing energy, you know, because they are alive, right? I mean, when they are alive, but like as you're saying, like getting to know the plants and everything, and you know, you hear people saying that they talk to their plants and like name their plants. I named some of my plants, but you know, I've gotten like a couple more that like I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to name you, but but just like having that energy there, it's like it's like company, you know. So
it makes a huge difference. I remember when I lived at a different place in Daly City, And I just, what it's like to move into a home. There's nothing there. The walls are completely white. And soon as I started to bring plants into the home and also color, it really kind of added to a warmer or created a warmer energy in the home, which is much more inviting and allowed me to settle and de-stress from the day. So when I met Dan, I was like, really, actually, that was kind of the thing that got me.
Oh,
so
okay.
I told you how we met in the little Facebooks.
Yes.
In the little Facebooks. And so he sent me a photo of his home, and it was just like he just had plants everywhere. I was like, looks interesting. Kind of want to check it out, see what it's like. And it completely impressed me. So part of me doing the podcast in the home, and you haven't been able to do like the full tour because we were like kind of rushing and doing a lot of things today.
Good.
But when people come in, I really do like to give them a tour of the home. I love it when Dan's here because then he can actually talk about all the plants and kind of his journey of like what it means to him, and it's a little bit more of an experience. So because and there's a lot of history, like especially in that particular room where we shot your video, your JiuJitsu video that we shot today. That you guys will see on the gram soon, or you will already see it because this podcast will come out after that. So he has like there's history. There's the Torah. If I say that wrong, everybody is gonna be pissed off with me. But his grandfather got that artifact in World War II.
What?
It was like it's like there's a lot of history in this home.
Wow.
And so like the plants is like a big part of it. So I really like to kind of, when I invite people in, I really try to choose good guests, especially in the beginning when I don't have a studio. So it's like I'm inviting people into the home, showing them the history, really getting them kind of like you were talking about that grounding process.
Yeah.
So you kind of get grounded in the space.
Yeah, I really feel that. Like, it's very intimate and cozy. And, I just, I almost feel like so calm, like that I didn't have to do anything. I think like my surroundings just kind of like, we're connected, right? We're going to talk more about connection and what that means to me, the both of us. So I think this is a really good space. I consider myself really fortunate to be one of like the first to experience this, because I know you got a vision, girl, and I know it's gonna be like even beyond your wildest dreams. So I'm happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I definitely have a vision. We're definitely in the beginning right now. Me and Tirza working it out.
Hey.
But, she's been my road dog ever since.
That's what's up.
Can't get her to train, but I can get her to do a jiu-jitsu podcast. Every once in a while.
Hey, it's all good. Like, we all have, like, our path and our strengths and everything. And it's beautiful to see you have that relation with someone that, like, even before you had birthed this idea of like podcasting and like, and just to really just be connected to your folks, your peoples, and like bring them with you. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't get anywhere like alone, right? So that's something I want to emphasize too, is like just want to bring in my ancestors to the space, past, present, and future. I got my son, that
the baby was here and he was having a good old time.
So, and I actually love when things are just organically unfolding, and it's just like we didn't plan this, for me to be sitting here in person, where it was just like, just to come to do a video or whatever, but then it just works out, and I have to remind myself to trust the process like that, because not everything's under my control. And just like to surrender to like whatever, like the powers that be, or whatever you believe in, that's just like, yeah, the tech gods. Exactly. I know y'all were praying to the tech gods earlier. They came through.
Yeah, eventually. They put us through some trials and tribulations, but we have overcome.
Yes, that's growth right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, with the growth, something that I really wanted to bring you on the podcast for is because you are a new mom. And to me, that's, I don't think there's a lot of conversations, open conversations, public conversations in the jiu-jitsu community about what it's like to be a mom who does martial arts. And not just like as a hobbyist, but as somebody who is actively competing and who is building her business and is active in the community, not just as somebody who just kind of shows up. And like there's people out there who I know, especially in our area, who are at that level. For example, Tess and Judy, have the pleasure of knowing Alexis Davis. And like, these are forces to be reckoned with, women who are moms who, like, I was rolling with Tess and she was like very pregnant and kicking my ass, by the way. So I know a lot of people out there will have their thoughts about that, but I'm, you know, at some point in my life, I want to build a family and planning. I'm like getting up there, you know, I'm not in my 20s. If I was younger, it wouldn't be as of a concern for me. But since I'm like approaching 40 now, it's more of like, okay, I have to be more conscious. I have to be taking care of my body a little bit more. Like there's a lot more, there's just a lot more care that I have to do with that process. But I also am not willing to like just completely forego my training, because it's such a huge part of not just my life, but my identity and who I am. And I just kind of wanted to talk to you about how you've been able to handle all of that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And just, I feel like I'm just having fun right now. Like, just like, I wanted to thank you again for like opening up this space for me to reflect and to also share part of my story regarding motherhood, right? Yeah. And so there's two parts of it that I'll share today, but there's obviously it's like multiple facets of motherhood, but the two things I want to share specifically are like, yeah, mothering my child and mothering myself, right? So
and your journey, we're talking about that too. Yes. As a martial artist.
Yes, definitely. So the part of like mothering myself would be like kind of a rebirth, right, as I mentioned to you before. But so to back it up, like yeah, I definitely also see these other mothers like within the jiu-jitsu community that you had mentioned, who have already been doing that, you know. So I like look up to those people and kind of take bits and pieces and like see, you know, what could serve me for my own identity. Martine and I, my partner, we met through jiu-jitsu, so we pretty much are like a jiu-jitsu couple, right? And we had talked about having kids, but we just love to train so much, like, and we just like would compete like every year for PANs, for Worlds. We got older, past 29, and we're like, okay, we're not gonna stop competing, but we'll do masters. Like now it's like over 30, right? And so like we just never stopped training, never stopped competing until the pandemic hit. Right. So that's when it's like things just started to literally shut down and slow down. And so then we started revisiting the idea of having our own child, or, you know, growing our family. And you know, everything aligned and we had our first child. So Marcelo is our, he's 15 months now. He just turned 15 months. And I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it's very manageable if you have your village and your community, you know. So both Martine and I are very lucky to have our families, both sides of our families, to help out with childcare, number one, right? And not just like having a place for Marcelo to be, but just but also being raised by our family, right? Because it's not just like, you know, like a daycare or whatever. Like these days, like you don't know who you could trust or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's very true.
So so shout out to my family, my mom and dad's, like they take care of him like at night when Martine and I are mainly in the gym Monday through Friday. And so so we call our gym our second baby, right? Because I'm also up in that age. I may not look it, and I know like you know, just at first glance or first impression, folks will just think like I'm in high school or whatever, but I'm 39, and yeah, I'll be 40 this year. So I think the biological clock kind of played into it too, because I do a lot of like reflecting on the times of my life or like the milestones, you know. So I'm just like, okay, where am I at, you know? What do I want? What are my goals? How far have I gone? Because I also want to celebrate that, you know. And what are some like places where there's room for growth for me? So what I had envisioned was to continue training jiu-jitsu, because it's always going to be part of my life. I kind of took a hiatus because of the pandemic and then pregnancy. So it was like a 3-year hiatus, you know, that hadn't been on the mats. But how I also got through and have grown through that time was just to be connected to community a lot. And, you know, everything was on Zoom. Everything was virtual at the time. And so I would seek out these spaces where I felt was calling me because of some like inner work that I wanted to do. Because I mean, we all, whether you recognize it or not, that you know, I think we all have some work to do, right? Inner work to do. And when I talk about jiu-jitsu, it's not just about the techniques that we're learning. It's not just the physical aspect. There's and it's not just the mental aspect either. It's emotional, and it can be spiritual, like if you open yourself up to that. So I learned more about like community spaces that were just holding you to just get in touch with like more of that feminine energy, because jiu-jitsu is very masculine, right? And I embodied a lot of that throughout the years of training. But just to really get in touch with like what's going on besides like, why do you even train? You know what I mean? Like, so I asked myself these questions, like, what's my purpose? You know, like, well, why am I still doing this? First of all, why did I start doing this? Why am I still doing it? And like, what keeps me going? And so one thing I like to say too is like, we're not here forever. Like, and that ties into being a mom, is like, I'm gonna, you know, live on through my seed, through my child, right? And my descendants and everything. So that's how I feel like gives me some purpose to just keep going and everything. And it's not easy. It's like there are times when I just like don't even want to like go to work, or, you know, not because I'm like physically in ailment. I'm like really just like need to take care of my mental health, and you know, my self-care needs tending to, right?
Do you feel like you get much of that now as a, well, like when Marcella was born, I hear a lot about how of a struggle it is those first few, however long, I don't know, and like the sleepless nights and all those things. Does it seem to get easier for you as he's getting older?
Yeah, so I think that jiu-jitsu has taught me to kind of have like this kind of game face, or like just calm aura, right? Almost to a point where it's like, she's so nice, like, you know. And I kind of no pun intended, but I kind of grapple with that idea of being like nice or whatever, because you know, I'm nice, but like I'm not always nice on the mats. You know,
you're not nice,
because that's not the goal. You know, the goal is just to, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
The goal is the goal.
I remember the first time I rolled with you. I think we were purple belts.
Yeah.
Were we
it
purple
was
or blue?
You were purple. We were purple.
We were purple belts.
Same time.
And man, I was tiny but mighty is all you, for show. For show. I remember we had a crazy roll. I'm not sure if you were preparing for a tournament. But I feel like every time at that gym that we were at, or I had visited you at, everybody was preparing for something. It was just a competition heavy gym, which is one of the reasons why I liked training there at the time. So because I was competing a lot then as well. But yeah, you're like not nice. I mean, you're nice, like super sweet off the mat. And I don't mean like mean in a bad way. Like when we roll, it's very competitive. Yeah. Very, very competitive. And I love that. I love that about you.
Yeah. No, thank you for seeing me in that way because, like, you know, we're multifaceted human beings. We're not just like super like competitive or like, you know, masculine or and we're not just like this sweet angel, you know what I mean? So thank you for seeing that in me. I also acknowledge that within myself and like kind of want to self-affirm, you know, because it's hard. Like well, let me get back to like your original question first with like has it been easier with Marcelo getting older? I feel like yes, in a sense, because him just learning how to walk is already like a sign of like being more independent. So I don't have to like hold him as much, and like, you know, that energy is spent on carrying him or like bringing him to places. Like he can go on his own right now. But yeah, again, like I'm always gonna go back to like in the daytime, it's my sister-in-law, you know, Martine's one of Martine's sisters. In the evening, it's my parents, you know. So I mean, the saying is true, like, you know, like
it takes a village.
It takes a village. Yeah. Thank you. So and then jumping back to the whole like competitive side of things and everything. I mean, you know me, I'm petite. I'm like not even 5 feet. I'm like I want to say 4'11" because 11 sounds better than 10. But I mean, like, I have to defend myself. I always just say, I used to always say that too. I'm just defending myself and everything. But the thing is,
no, you're kicking ass.
I really do love it. Like the feeling of the adrenaline rush, but then also just the empowerment of it, especially as a woman. And like a woman of color, you know, I feel like we've always been marginalized, you know, we're still marginalized, right? Jiu-jitsu is a male dominant sport. And I mean, what sport isn't, right? But I think there's a lot of women that are coming out, like, especially now as black belts too, with that like more assertiveness, like leadership role. And that's something that I also want to embody. Because like I said, I'm not here forever. So, and you just never know who's like, you know, who can do what? Receive something out of like just how you're living your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I completely agree. I would say like, so far as the feeling, I definitely feel my most powerful when I'm doing jiu-jitsu, and definitely, you know, when I'm weightlifting, when I like hit PRs, and like that. And things of that nature. Being able to tap into that masculine, and we were talking about masculine and feminine energies, being able to tap into that masculine energy in that way is thrilling for me. But I do find like when I spend so much time working or training, I get to a point where I crave more feminine energy. So I love coming home to like a lot of plants. I love like being able to take time to, you know, y'all see I did my braids.
Yeah, I see you, girl.
So I take time to do my hair, my makeup, because when I don't do those things, I feel it's not even like I don't feel feminine. Of course I don't, but that's not the first thing that comes to my mind. It's more like I just feel like kind of cruddy. Like I'm not taking care of myself. And I think the feminine energy, not feminine, but feminine energy side is the caretaking side of me.
Yes.
And the masculine energy side is the execution side of me. And I love to do the execution work. That is my primary operating system.
Yeah.
You know, so like I am constantly goal setting. I'm constantly like figuring out ways to get to my to reach my goals, and constantly driven. And it really does take a lot of work, or not work, but planning. Really planning. Really planning. Set aside that time to be like, okay, no, today we're not doing anything. Today we're just taking care of ourselves. Today we're spending time, you know, doing the girly stuff, or we're spending time with friends, we're spending time with family members, or we're just not spending time with anybody. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear from nobody right now. Nobody call me. I need time for just Vaughn, you know, and silence. So I really like understand that balance. I was literally having this conversation with a friend last night about how it is a struggle for me to balance that work relationship with my relationship. You know, and so to me, like wanting to, maybe it's because I'm type A and I'm like, again, success mindset, needs to be successful, and I want to like make sure that I'm like bringing somebody into this life with the best accommodations that I can possibly give. It's like, okay, I know I have difficulties here setting aside time for other people. What it's going to be like to bring another human into. I know this is really what I want. But like being able to set aside that time to caretake for somebody else who is completely dependent on me. It's scary. Like Snowflake, my bunny, oh, she's fine. You know, she needs me, but she can shit on her own.
Bunnies are pretty kind of like low maintenance and all.
Very low maintenance.
I mean, I've had my 2 rabbits as well. I named rest in peace to my baby, my fur baby Gable.
Gable, aka Snowflake's daddy.
But he was named after Dan Gable.
Oh yeah,
for the Gable grip. Yeah. So just want
Snowflake's daddy.
Well, I don't know. Phoebe might have something to say about that.
She might.
He pretty much was our first baby. Yeah. Right. So he basically gave us that practice, that opportunity to be nurturing and just care for another being.
Rabbits are like, if you guys think between dogs and rabbits are far much less energy and effort to care for than a dog. Between cats and rabbits, they're kind of, I don't know which one's easier.
I mean, I had a cat too. I think cats are easier. I don't know.
Cat, I would say, because cats really don't even need you at all.
I mean, you just change their litter every once in a while, but
they'll go hunt their own food.
I was gonna say too that then once Marcelo came into the picture, we still had the rabbits for a few months, but then we had to make the decision to let them go because obviously we're gonna prioritize our human child. But just with the awareness of taking those moments that you have, even if it's like, for me, I'm going to speak obviously on my behalf of like being a mother, changing his diaper, just preparing his food and then feeding him. Those are just some examples where I take those moments and I create like a dialogue, even if like, I mean, he's pretty vocal now, but just like starting from when even starting from the womb, right? Like I was already talking to him. Martine and I were reading to him in the belly. And like even now, I just want to be so aware that you don't have to like set a time or day or plan like this certain event or whatever to or like a play date or whatever to interact with your child. Like throughout the day on a daily basis, like I take those like 5-10 minutes to like ask them. I ask him like, oh, how was your sleep? Did you dream big? It's like every night when he's already fast asleep in his crib, like I'll say these things to him. I'll say, sweet dreams, dream big, make a plan and make it happen. Because as a child, talking about also like mothering myself, like I am also aware of like my inner child needs, right? So as a child, like I don't think I really thought to like dream big. Like that's something somewhat vulnerable for me to say and share, because now as an adult, like about to hit 42, it's like not 42, 40. But like it's like now is the time for me, like you're never too young or old, right? To have a vision, have a dream, and make a plan and make it happen. And you can't do that alone. So, you know, be mindful of like who you surround yourself with, right? To get you there, and who you want to bring with you too. Because, you know, energy is contagious, right? Like we're talking about these plant energies, right? It's like really grounding, and that's, you know, helpful. But yeah, so being a mom is like just take any opportunity, like, you know, that you can get to connect with your baby. And it's not, again, it's not just like, oh, we're gonna set up this like I'm gonna take you to this spot and like to the park or something, and then we'll play, you know what I mean? Like you can create that wherever you are, you know. And even if they're not like fully aware, like, because if they're like sleeping or whatever, you can whisper things like you know, so that's kind of like the foundation that I've been building with Marcelo. And so
he's such a happy baby too. He is so adorable.
He's so funny.
He is
his
hilarious.
New word is like no. He's like no. Like he doesn't like his milk cold, or you know, just like fresh out the fridge. So like we heat it up, but not through the microwave. We just like put it in some like hot water. And then like one time, like he was crying in the middle of the night, and like so I made him a bottle and stuff, but he wasn't like he didn't want to wait. So I just like gave him some of it, and then like halfway through he was like pushed it away, and he was like no, because like he knew it wasn't warm enough. So I was like, okay baby, then you gotta wait a little bit. So but he was patient enough to like wait for the rest of it. But he's becoming more vocal, you know, and he obviously like you know, T and I were talking about like he knows, like, you know, like babies like can like pick up things, like even if they don't express that vocally or whatever, but cognitively, like they will kind of understand in their own way, right? Even whether you realize it or not. So it's like also be mindful of that, like
and be mindful of what you say. How was your prep for Nogi Worlds? How were you able to prioritize motherhood with prepping for World Championship?
That's like again, shout out to like my parents, because like I started so I gained a lot of weight, like even pre-COVID, you know. I was kind of starting to gain weight like right in like December, like the holidays and stuff, right before like it was like 2019 holidays. So then the pandemic hit March 2020, right? So I was already gaining weight, and so I had to like shed and pandemic weight and pregnancy weight and postpartum. So postpartum weight, and I had lost like 30 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
To prepare for this tournament. So that's the thing about competition too, is like there's nothing like competition to get you in ship shape, you know, like really like physically and like sharp, right? For your mental game, your game plan and everything. So my parents really helped me out with that, because I started off going to the gym doing Zumba. So that was like my thing, because I was like, man, my body is like a lot heavier than usual, and it would even hurt to walk, because my feet were swollen and stuff, right? Just
and this was pre-pregnancy or during pregnancy?
Postpartum.
Okay.
So right before Nogi Worlds, as I was prepping for it, as soon as I registered, I was like, okay, I got to start, you know, getting to work, right? Meaning like first lose the weight, right? And then obviously go train. So my parents would take Marcelo, and me and my partner Martina and I would just kind of rotate out, like who would go to the gym and then who would, you know, be with the baby. So we tag team on that, and again, it's a lot of that kind of like that spiritual work too, of that really pulled me through these like inner strengths of like telling myself like, okay, like, you know, you can do this, you know, and you're doing this not just for yourself, you know what I mean? There's a bigger, greater whole and like a greater purpose for why you're doing it. It doesn't matter if you medal or not. I mean, you know, if you win or not or whatever, what just matters is the process and like the experience that you gain. I see Snowflake. She's like,
she doesn't start chewing on the cables.
She's so cute. Cam. Yeah, so I was just saying that it didn't matter to me the results, but it just mattered to me that I was taking care of myself to get to this place where I could even compete, you know, and that took a lot of like, obviously discipline, you know, reminding me of my purpose, you know, of doing this, and which is basically to tell myself first and foremost that that I can, if I set my mind to it, my heart into it, then I can do it, you know. I can be I don't know if this is the right way of saying, but like I can be like qualified to like, or eligible to even compete and everything, because you have to be a certain like weight category, right? That's why I said I had to drop that 30 pounds. And it wasn't just from Zumba. You know, Zumba was fun though.
I remember you actually came to me, you asked about weight loss, just general weight loss outside of bodybuilding, which I've done. And you started a HIIT program to help you lose the weight in time. And that's is that what you primarily used?
Yes.
In order to lose the weight?
Yeah. So so I would do like body weight, which I really liked. Like I really feel like that's something that works for me. Instead of using like all these weights or like going to the treadmill and everything, I would also hit the sauna too. So it was just a combination of like HIIT, like, you know, intervals and everything, because I think my mind gets a little bit like ADHD. I'm like, okay, I can't be on the treadmill for 30 minutes.
I found that it is very highly likely that I have ADD. I took an online test. Okay, it was an online test.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. I would have to go to an actual psychiatrist to verify. It was just like an online test, and it was 6 out of 6.
For real? Hey, send me that link because I want to confirm too.
6 out of 6.
Oh,
you
no.
might have ADD. You should probably see a doctor.
Martine.
Sorry, I'm laughing because the bunny is trying really hard to bite the cable, and I'm scared.
Just do that.
Yeah, like so Martine would always just be like, "You gotta drill and everything. You gotta just like." Drill like 1 or 2 things and everything until it's like, you know, muscle memory, right? Yes. And I was like, yeah, I like to drill. Okay, before, actually, I would say this was before, like I didn't really like it, but like now it's like, obviously, like I value that. But before I was just like, oh, I just want to train. I just want to like spar, you know, like just get to the sparring part. Because then every second is a different situation, or like, you know, every few seconds is like you're always transitioning.
I think maybe that's why I love, and I know a lot of people who have ADD or ADHD who really enjoy JiuJitsu, and it probably because of the variety, you know.
That's why
it speaks to us.
I definitely used to say that JiuJitsu, I didn't choose the JiuJitsu life. JiuJitsu chose me and everything, but then I kind of like wanted to revise that and say that I'm also choosing JiuJitsu, you know, because it's kind of a relationship, like,
oh, I could not,
you know.
Yeah, during the pandemic I was really I felt like I had lost a limb, like an emotional limb, because it's such a huge part of my life. I feel that. And then when COVID happened and things shut down, and you know, obviously we had our bubbles, but I started to train Muay Thai more because you know, Darren had transitioned to a gym that was primarily a Muay Thai gym. And I had always wanted to do Muay Thai. And I think, you know, that environment, because I love it. I love it now, thanks to the people who I learned from and the training partners that I have. But it wasn't jiu-jitsu.
No, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. And I missed it so much. It was just like, I'm doing this. I'm doing all this Muay Thai. I'm doing some MMA training. but it's not jujitsu. Like, I really miss jujitsu. Like, I just feel like I'm a huge FOMO. I think that's what it was. I was just having like major FOMO until I got to a place where I could train again. So it was like Armin was shout out to Armin. He's like one of the first people who got me back into like training. I just asked him, hey,
nice,
do you want to roll after class? And he's like, sure. So I would roll with him, and then that turned into, what did I do next?
Did you start lifting or?
No, I mean, I'd always been weightlifting through COVID. I'm trying to figure out
another martial art
with Armin.
Was it another martial art, or was it like a sport kind of thing, or just like a hobby?
No. I was like, I'm trying to figure out, I think I just started like going to different open mats after that. Okay. And so I was starting to train more because I was like feeling a little bit insecure, and then because I was like not training very much, and then I started going to more open mats. I think is what happened, and then I got promoted, and then my good friend Carr invited me over for like a girls' Christmas jiu-jitsu girls like dinner bruncheon kind of thing, and it was like Patty was there, Dorothy was there, Margaret was there, Carr, and then I forgot the other girl's name. There was another girl there. All of us do jiu-jitsu. And so Dorothy actually told me about Steadfast in Richmond, and I looked out the website. I was like, oh, awesome, afternoon training. And I've really like training in the afternoon because I think we were talking about like our partner's work schedule and like how it's kind of difficult to find time. Yeah. Because Dan, like, he works super early in the morning, and I have meetings in the morning, like early in the morning, and then he goes to bed quite early. So
sounds familiar. Yeah. sounds like Martine's.
Yeah. So it's like routine. Okay, 6 and 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock is the time frame when I would spend with him after he got home from work. So like being able to train in the afternoon was ideal for me. Yeah. Especially since I work from home mostly. I have a tech job, and I have a very flexible schedule, so I can pretty much train when I want to. And I started like, getting myself accustomed to going to sleep at a reasonable time and not like 1 a.m. because you're training until like 8 or 9 o'clock. So it was difficult for me to find a no-gi place because I primarily have been doing no-gi for the past few years. And Snowflake is a brat. I need to get a video on her. She's trying to chew the cables, you guys. She's like, cables everywhere, let me chew them.
Have you started doing like memes with her? Like,
I need to. Like, she's ridiculous. But yeah, so I was training at my buddy Cola's place, and I love training with Cola. He's really a great teacher. He has some really great students at his gym. His kids are fire to roll with, and I love training there, but it's like all the way out in Hercules. Oh, yeah. We'll just go on a drive.
Yeah, the commute
during the afternoon it's really not bad, but it's primarily gi. He's pretty loose, so he's like, oh, you can do some no-gi stuff too, but I really wanted to like really focus in on my no-gi training. So when I found Steadfast, and then they have like an afternoon no-gi class, I was like, I am there. And it's Richmond, California, so much closer. For me, it's like 30 minutes in the afternoon. I try not to go there in the evenings. I mean, I do for wrestling, but it's like kind of plan for 3 hours for that rush hour commute to get across. Oof. Yeah. But it's only for wrestling. There's not like a huge, just pure wrestling school. So I you're going to get what you get with the wrestling class. I would go to Fight Culture, but I teach the same, like Fridays. I teach on Fridays during Martin's class, wrestling class. I really like his class. He's got a really great wrestling program there.
Yeah,
too.
we were also, speaking of which, we were also doing that. We also trained a little bit at Fight Culture too, preparing for Nogi Worlds. Martine was preparing for Nogi Pans right before Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that was in October or September, something like that. So, and at the time I was still like deciding if I was going to sign up for Nogi Worlds. Yeah. And then so that also added to our training. So we would do like Mondays and Fridays, because Fridays, like you mentioned, was Coach Martin's like wrestling class, which was dope because like I always want to learn wrestling, and I prefer, because I feel like everything I kind of do or I choose to do would be like to supplement jiu-jitsu, right? And so that was helpful for like takedowns and like control, things like that.
He's tricky, man. Martin's really good. I love rolling with the guy, and he's really a great coach. I gotta give a shout out to Kelly Kuzumoto too. She probably doesn't watch this, but I'm giving a shout out to her too, because I mean, obviously Darren's like, still to this day, the things that he showed me for my wrestling, like my low single is my bread and butter takedown, other than body lock takedowns. And so like still to this day, that's one of my primary takedowns that I go to. I remember preparing for Nogi Worlds as a purple belt, and we just trained that crazy religiously. So it's like now it just comes out of me without thinking. But with Kelly, she like made me into an actual person who could potentially look like a wrestler. Nice. I would say that like we spent a lot of the time during lockdown. I would pay her to come, like we would go to my apartment and set up like just like 2 5x10s together.
Wow.
Just 2 5x10s, do some wrestling. She showed me some technique. She went old school. Y'all, she went old school freaking Cobra Kai on me. Had me pushing her freaking truck around. Just driving like Kelly, like I would attribute, if I at any point look like I can wrestle, it's because of Kelly. Wow. She's very technical, instructor, and very, very, very good. I remember seeing her. We were blue belts back in the day. When, do you remember Molly?
Yeah. At Oakland.
She had Sweaty Betty's back when she was at Eduardo Rocha's. Back when Molly first started that program, Kelly was there and she was killing it. And she was like, "Jiu-jitsu soft, I'm out." I'm a wrestler.
Wow.
She was like, but yeah, she's good. So like going over to after all that work we put in together during the pandemic, going over to Steadfast, it was like, it felt more comfortable with it now, because before, when I would take wrestling classes, I still was scared to get into those wrestling entanglements. Now I feel a lot more comfortable.
I mean, even just like the prep, right? Like we would, talk about like even like programs in like schools or like high schools and stuff. Like that prep is like no joke, right? Yes. It's like, you think jiu-jitsu is hard, like you step into a room of wrestlers. Like, and then you were also mentioning how your bread and butter, like you just sometimes just need that one move, one move that's just effective. You don't need to know like a million things, like just if you can execute that one thing, like that's just like gold.
Yeah, and it's the same is true with jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
Like I think, especially in the beginning when you're learning so many different things, it can be overwhelming. But when you connect with something, whether it's a move or a concept, and you just like that becomes yours, it's so liberating, because then you are able to build off of that you're able to build out from that place.
Yeah. And it gives you a sense of like comfort within a setting that's meant to challenge you and put you in discomfort.
Exactly.
You know, so I always keep that in mind too, is like you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, jiu-jitsu, they say, is for everyone. I think that I like to believe that jiu-jitsu is offered to everyone, you know, like it's open, you know, it's like, yeah, try it. But I don't think it's for everyone. Honestly, it's not everyone can, it's like not everyone can do any other sport or whatever. Like, you know,
I don't know if it's about ability. I think it's more about sustainability. Most people don't want to invest the time or sacrifice.
Well, that's what I'm
what
saying.
It takes,
it's like the long game of
Yes.
like, you know, this is something that, like how we were talking about earlier, like, you know, there are many different backgrounds like of people that train jiu-jitsu. Like, you know, they can just be doing it as, you know, a hobby or something, or something that makes them want to lose weight, or something that they want to take more seriously, to like in the competition level or whatnot. And some people have dreams of like opening up their own gym or whatnot, you know, things like that. But I think that like anybody can like try a class, but like you were saying, to your point of, you know, are you going to stay, you know, like for the long haul, like, you know, throughout all like the belt levels and like all of the
ups and downs,
the roller coaster,
yes.
You know, I mean, such a cliche term, but it's like,
it really is. It's like,
definitely
what
true.
Is it, troughs? I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but there's troughs, there's valleys, there's great mountains.
Yep,
It's
peaks
like,
and valleys, yeah.
Peaks, valleys, and like just big out freaking voids.
Yep.
There's constant obstacles in your way, and it's not even about technical growth. It's COVID happens, your gym shuts down, your gym breaks up, you know, just life happens a lot in jiu-jitsu. Like for real.
Yeah.
And it's not always about your own personal inner growth. Sometimes it's about your environment and what's happening around you. And there's people who get turned off by that. I always knew that no matter what, this was mine. Like this was mine.
Yeah.
And you can ask my parents. You can talk about my mom, since I mentioned her on the podcast. You will find very rarely in my life that I've ever stuck with something this long.
Oh,
like,
same. I mean, we're on the same boat with that and everything. Like, I always just say like, oh yeah, I did basketball in middle school, 7th and 8th grade, but we all know not even 5 feet. I'm not getting far with that. So let me just find. And then jiu-jitsu came and I was just like, yeah, this totally like, you know, I could totally do this. Like it's for the smaller person, first of all, like the origin of it. Right. And then it's closer to the ground. So this is my home. Like, you know, this is where I belong. You know, I found something. So I feel very fortunate to have this community, and just like jiu-jitsu is also, I see it as a platform, you know. You and I wouldn't be here like speaking, having this conversation if it weren't for jiu-jitsu, but it's brought me to a lot of connections, you know, with people. Well, first of all, to myself, and then connection to my roots and everything. Because I was telling you earlier too that if I'm gonna show up somewhere, I want to be able to not only be confident, but just to be, you know, organic and authentic, and be like, yeah, like I know where I came from. I know where I am and where I want to go, you know, and that's a constant learning process. Like I'm still, because we're always ever evolving. So I'm always like trying to like grasp some kind of inspiration, you know. Yeah. And so, and yeah, shout out to our affiliation, JG Academy. Aspire to Inspire is a motto that like that I really want to embody, is like, because I've been so inspired by so many people. Like we talked about the moms earlier, you know, Tess and Judy have rolled with them too. And like, you know, like they're just like really tough chicks that like will really put you to the test, and like I really respect that. I really appreciate that. Like I wish I could be like more like that, and it's not too late, you know, like because I would tell myself at one point in jiu-jitsu where it's like, man, I'm being called aggressive, I'm being called a bully, or I'm being called like, or I'm being people are telling me like, oh, she's gonna beat you up and stuff, kind of like as a cute little joke thing, because I'm like this quote unquote little girl, right? But then it sort of got to my head to where I kind of like eased up a little bit, like, and then kind of just didn't want to be mean or whatever. But that's kind of like the past now, you know? And I'm like, no, I have to like, when someone puts it on me, like for me personally, like I like that because it tests me. It makes me turn my switch on and be like, okay, I really gotta protect my neck, you know what I mean? Like I really gotta go. I can't just sit here and guard, acting like, you know, that I can just prevent them from passing, you know. But yeah, but earlier you said something about like it's not just like your technical growth too and everything, right? And I also want to combine that with what I mentioned earlier about your spiritual growth, right? So I really feel like it could be a path where you can like dive into your spirit, like let's just take like a competition, for example, or even just like in a training session where it's like sometimes your nerves get the best of you, sometimes you get anxious, you know. I guess I can just speak for myself, but then like what do I tell myself, right? I gotta tell myself that I gotta affirm myself that I'm here for a reason. I like to think, you know, like I'm choosing this, you know, this empowers me, right? And yeah, like if someone can be inspired by that, then I'm grateful, because I know how it is to be on the other end when I'm like seeking for some kind of like inspiration and being like, okay, why should I do this? You know, why should I keep going? It's because, hey, I see her doing it, and I see them, you know, despite what's going on with their lives outside of the mats, like they're able to show up and train and, you know, just do something positive for themselves, like for their body, and like whether they realize it or not, all other aspects, like physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like I keep mentioning, because I really want to emphasize that it's not just like, you know, the technical growth, or like just knowing all these movements and names and things like that, which is important too. But I think as I've grown throughout the years, there's like a deeper meaning for why I continue to train. It's kind of like my passion has been directed to more of like a purpose and everything. And I just see how beautiful it is to be around the community who's just learning jiu-jitsu too. And I love like the kids and like the adults that are like willing to, you know, set foot in the class and learn these techniques, because it's a long journey. You know this, right? And
it's never ending journey. Like if I was gonna say, like this is the way, you know?
Yeah.
Like hella nerdy Mandalorian. But I really love that. That's exactly what Bushido means. It just means the way, I'm pretty sure. And so, unless I'm wrong, somebody correct me, and then I'll just cut it out after I edit this video. But yeah, it's a never ending journey. It's just a path. And I think it depends on that human being, if they want to open, if they are willing, want, but if they make themselves willing to open themselves up to spiritual growth, it can really help complete your healing journey, your growth journey, whatever journey you want to call it for yourself, because there's so many different aspects to ourselves. I love that my girl Goalie was one of my first guests on the podcast, because she was like literally the first guest, because we had this great conversation before that podcast where my whole body was vibrating. We were talking and tapped into spirit. And I think that people are afraid to have those type of conversations. I think it's important. We forget that we are spiritual beings. We are energy embodied.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
And you know, and that is what spirit is. It's energy embodied in my own personal definition of it. And so when you're able to tap into energy, you were talking about the energy of plants. And so I'm actually certified Reiki. And so that's one of the things that we do is energy healing. And that's part of prayer. That's part of meditation. That's part of journaling is a little bit more on the conscious level, but you can take it to the spiritual level if you allow yourself to. As like somebody who's kind of in that spiritual success and life coach, that's what my certification is. It's we can heal on the conscious level, we can heal on the subconscious level, we can heal on the physical level. We can heal on all those different planes and still feel that we haven't healed. But until we start to tap into spirit, then for some reason, a lot of people feel that completeness in their healing. I always talk about healing because it's like,
no, I love it.
What my space, that's what called me to do jiu-jitsu in the first place. And that's what called me into becoming an NLP coach and a life coach and all these other types of coaching. It's the work I've been doing for quite a bit in the past few weeks too. The spiritual side is important. If we neglect that in our journey, we're neglecting a part of ourselves. And we know this to be true. If you take it into account, jiu-jitsu, soon as you shake hands with somebody, you have an energy exchange. We know this. But because we're raised in the Western world, we don't explore it. Because it becomes taboo for us because we can't measure it scientifically.
No, I really love this topic because especially like in the jiu-jitsu community, it's not talked about a lot, like what gets you through, you know, like if you have a mantra or if you have, you know, whatever you believe in that's gonna move you and like that's contributing to your spirit, you know. I would like folks would sometimes be surprised like when they would roll with me and they'd be like, you're so strong, like, you know, because I'm again tiny, right? A rooster weight like at 107 with the gi, right? So it's like, you're so strong. And I'm like, yeah, when I want to be in my mind, that's like the first thing. But then then I kind of explored that more. And I was like, why do, you know, like people feel like that's a shock or something? And I'm like, well, and then I started coming up with this idea, like I'm strong because my will is strong. Like, and that's just like a simple saying that I say to myself to also, because back then too, or I don't know if this probably still happens now, but kind of this idea that you shouldn't use all your strength. You got to use just technique or, you know, like technique, leverage, timing, all that. But honestly, if you get to like, you know, a level where if you're going to continue jiu-jitsu and then you reach like the higher rankings, and to your black belt, it's like you need everything, dude. And especially like, again, like I'm a petite person and it's like I'm gonna use everything I have like to throw at you. I don't care if you're a white belt, you know, but if you're like well, it depends, right? Because we have like a student and he just started out and he's really consistent, which is great. I'm so excited for his journey, but like as with everyone else that we have at the gym, but yeah, he's getting really good really fast. And I'm just like, I'm excited just talking about it, as you can see my energy shift. But I'm just like, dang, but like now he's like really keeping me on my toes too and everything. And especially as I'm coming back to consistent training myself, you know, as I talked about earlier, having a 3-year hiatus, you know, and then I finally decided like intentionally to train again. I'm not my same old, you know, 20-year-old self either. I started jiu-jitsu at 25.
Myself.
Yeah, and you know, my knees be clicking, my like my hips be, you know, like I need to stretch more. But yeah, and I'm not as flexible as I used to be, right? But going back to like again, like the spirit, like the mental, you know, like the idea of what gets you through. I believe like, yeah, your body will follow like what you tell yourself and what you believe and everything. And a lot of it comes from like, what are you feeding your spirit? You know what I mean? Like, they call it like, right, like soul food or whatever, right? So that's why I really like every day, like, I try to find something that'll inspire me. And I also have to remember something I have to tell myself is like how far I've gone, how far I've come, you know, and also giving myself credit too, because that's something that like I didn't do for a long time, is to look at myself in the mirror and really have that self appreciation and self love and that self respect.
Yeah. Self-gratitude is important. We're so easy to give gratitude to external things, but being grateful for ourselves is like often very difficult to do. There was something, and I just had a brain fart that I wanted to say, but something I do want to kind of circle back to talk about is I have a friend who literally just had a baby. I don't think her baby's just a few months old, and has been asking me a lot of questions about postpartum recovery, like core exercises to do to get back into training. How was your transition for you? Like going from the postpartum state, how patient and kind were you with yourself with how you got back into training?
Yeah, that's another thing that I'm really trying to integrate is that patient, that grace, that gentleness, kindness to myself of just having birthed a human child. Like, people don't understand unless you've, done it, right? Like, but basically for me, it's a lot of grounding, a lot of slowing down, a lot of like self-reflection and staying connected to healthy community like relationships. So I'm in this group right now called RLK, which is Raising Liberated Kids. Shout out to Adrian Esquera, who like kind of who started it, and this group with mamas. It's open to like all parents too, or caregivers, and not just like mothers or fathers. It's like open to the whole village, right? So there's a few of us, about I would say 5 or 6, that meet like bi-monthly, and they provide like all these resources too, to just support one another, support yourself, just emphasize the fact that you're not alone, and that resources are there, people are there, ready to like hold you, ready to listen, ready to just like, again, like hold space for like, if you just want to vent, if you feel like a moment that, you want to, that's like tugging at your heartstrings, and you feel like it's an emotional moment and you just break down in tears or whatever. No judgment. Like, we're all human, right? At some point we're gonna break, right? But the postpartum part was, and I'm still like, they say like postpartum is like forever, because it's like always post, like after, right? Giving birth. But like, I'm still going through things that, like inner battles of like this dialogue of like, okay, like, should I be doing more, or like, is this enough or whatever? I think I've gone to a point where I know myself, like I have this like self-acceptance that whatever I put out is enough for the day. You know what I mean? Like, could I have done more? Yes. But then like in that moment, like, I monitor my capacity, and, I really ask myself, like, is this something that I can pursue, whatever that may be, whether it's like a work task or responsibility, or if it's like, our gym, building our gym in different aspects. But like being in postpartum, like kind of fresh out of that, I didn't get no sleep. Like Martine and I were like super cranky, and like we definitely have had moments where that have tested us and question, like, like, how are we gonna make this work, like meaning him and I, this relationship and everything, if like we're both like maxed out to our capacity, so really bringing in that self-care and like just like that creating boundaries so that you're not just letting anything in, you know, in terms of energy, but like, yeah, like people or whatever, situations, events, whatever, really need to be self-aware of like what's good for you, and, you know, feel out like if you can like take that on or not, you know. So I think for me it was just a lot of like grounding, like slowing down and asking myself like, okay, like what do I need, you know what I mean? Do I need a nap? Like hell yeah. Like, you know, do I need PTO? You know, thankful for my my job and everything, for, you know, allowing us that without shame, because I work for like a nonprofit organization that is in the mental health field. So I feel really fortunate to be surrounded by people who advocate that, you know, advocate for that and understand. And like, it's like no question, like you're taking PTO, you ain't gotta explain, you know, like, oh, you ain't gotta fake a headache, you know, or like a, you know, whatever, food poisoning or whatever the fuck, like, you know. It's basically like I just need time for myself, you know, whether that's just staying in bed or you know, ordering a good meal, like, you know, comfort food, whatever. So like the postpartum, again, like aside from like, yeah, childcare support, really asking myself like, what is it that I need, like physically and emotionally, and like spiritually. Sometimes I would just scream at a pillow, or like I'm like thinking of examples of what I've done. Like definitely I've done the crying like in the car, like, and screaming out loud till my voice would crack, or like my throat would feel super dry, just screaming at the top of my lungs. I'd be like frustrated in that moment because of maybe not just, it's definitely not just the day, but it's like a breaking point to where it's like I'm maxed out to my capacity because of like things that have accumulated that maybe I haven't tended to. And sometimes it just happens, you know, sometimes it's just part of life, right? Part of being human, of like, you know, this and that, like housework, for example. Like me and my partner would totally agree on like mess equals stress. So like it definitely makes a difference, like the environment, like we just like clear out stuff, like and declutter, and that just creates clarity, right? And the opposite is true, where it's like, man, I'm so stressed out, like it's because my mind is so crowded or clouded, I don't know, could use both interchangeably, but yeah, basically I was like, I need to like rest my mind, you know. So that was the other thing I actually wanted to go back to earlier. You were saying like, you know, you just needed to like do nothing, you know, sometimes, and that's like even more productive, because you get to re-energize, you get to rest and rejuvenate, you know, or kind of like a reset, right? So I'm big on like rebirth too, right? Because yeah, I think a lot of arts are coming to mind right now, like reflection, self-reflection of like, I ask myself like, are you okay, Jyn? Like, you know, what do you need? You know, just these simple questions. And then sometimes I would also journal, so I could see it written out in paper and everything and refer back to it later. So it's a lot. It's like a mix of, yeah, definitely self-reflection and action, right? Or no action, right? So I would say, to kind of summarize like my main process of postpartum, and also just like acknowledging my son, like that he's here like for a reason, obviously, like, you know, he's a life in his own life, like, you know, the joy of having a child, you know, is a privilege, right? It's definitely a privilege. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to share this, but I guess, you know, to be just vulnerable, right? Practice vulnerability. Like before Marcelo, Martine and I actually were pregnant before. And the baby had transitioned like at 5 weeks. And so, yeah, that's something that at the time, and even if I like really sit down and think about it, is very tender. You know, it's like something that was obviously something that we didn't expect, and something that we didn't know how to really navigate around that. But it took a lot of, again, like that kind of like spiritual sense, I think, because sometimes like nothing is gonna like mend that, you know, nothing physically, like you're not gonna DoorDash like, you know, something that's just make you feel like good about what the fuck just happened, you know. So it took a lot of like that healing process too. So that's why I guess I talk about I'm actually glad that I spoke that out loud, because it's something I don't really share with just anybody. But now that like, you know, folks are gonna hear this, like, you know, I think I really want to be an advocate as well for like mental health, and you know, really just talk about your shit, you know what I mean? Like, just like don't keep it in, you know what I mean? And I learned that too from like a lot of people like in my community, but first of all, like my family, like, you know, my closest, like obviously my partner Martine, like as a male identified person, like, you know, like raised in the Western world, and like, you know, in society, men are conditioned to hold their, like, just hold things in and like suppress things. And yeah, I'm just saying that from my experience with the men in my life. But it's really important to find people that you trust and that you can open up to, and that can support you in any way, whether that's just like holding space and listening to you and not judging you. Not everyone needs like advice, you know, or for them to like fix something. They just want to be listened to, you know, and understood, and like seen, and like, you know, basically with the whole like trend, like our first technically baby that passed like after 5 weeks, like we weren't sure like if we were gonna try again. Like we had to obviously like wait until we were emotionally okay to, you know, try again. Fortunately we were lucky to just like conceive after about a month or so, month and a half or whatever. So, and then 9 months later, yeah, like our rainbow baby, right, our child was born. And I think that that's kind of why I'm also trying to remember, like, Marcelo is like, he came through, you know what I mean? And he came through to bring so much joy to our lives, like not just me and my partner, but my parents. That's their first grandchild. And my brother too, and my sister, it's their first like nephew and all that. So yeah, I think being a mom is my first priority, you know, outside of like my separate identity as like a woman and like an individual. But definitely, yeah, I mean, I may be at the gym like Monday through Friday, like every you know, from 5 or 6 to 9 or whatever, but I'm always thinking about, I'm doing this for my son, I'm doing this for my descendants, you know, like I'm doing this so that he can kind of see like a, you know, a blueprint or whatever, like kind of see like a template of like how someone can be strong even if they're struggling, you know, and they don't have to do it alone. Like there is support out there, you know, so you just have to keep telling yourself that, because yeah, like if you feel alone, like it's just so hard to like to live your life, you know, and lives have been taken from that. Like, you know, people take their own lives, right? And it's like super sad. Like I'm not gonna go down that path, but like of like talking about it. But yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful that I feel very resourced. I feel very supported, and I know that I can, because of them, meaning like my community and my village, I feel I could stand on my own 2 feet, like, you know, because they're strong, like I feel like I can also be strong and, you know, pursue whatever it is for myself and for this greater purpose, like I keep mentioning. Yeah, because we were talking about that drop in the ocean too. Yeah. Like, we're drops of the ocean. The ocean is so vast and big. So it's humbling, but it's also like a way to think from me, like how we're all connected. We're all connected. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Jyn.
Thank you.
So we are almost out of time, but before we finish, there's something that I want to do with you.
Yeah.
Which is I want to like break down some jiu-jitsu techniques, but not technique, sparring situation. And I'm going to try this might take a little while. Hopefully I have the video on here. If it's not on here, yes, I have it. Yay. So it's you and your student
Mahalina.
Mahalina, and I think you guys are rolling. So let me make sure I screen share to the laptop. You can see it. Perfect. Okay. So this is y'all's roll. Rolling. So before we get into it,
yeah,
I'm gonna probably let me see if I can.
This is so fun.
This.
It's like I've never done this before. Like
like a
watch it, and like commentate on it.
Yeah, so we're gonna break this down. So you're starting part of your other motherhood journey. We talk about motherhood a lot. The other part is the jiu-jitsu motherhood. You're really stepping into being a teacher now.
Yeah.
So go ahead and kind of, if you can talk to this from different angles. I'll let you choose. You know, you can talk to it from somebody who's a competitor, who's kind of breaking down what you're doing. You can talk to it as a teacher, explain to like people who are trying to get better at jiu-jitsu.
Sure, yeah.
Or you can talk to people who don't know jiu-jitsu at all and like explain to them what is actually happening.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna hit I'm gonna kind of scroll it back and see if I can hit play once again. So what's going on here? You can go ahead and break down.
Yeah. So as a smaller practitioner, sometimes like my go-to is to keep them in a closed guard. So that's the position that you saw in the first clip.
See if I can wind it back right here.
Yeah. So just to establish some kind of control, especially on a bigger opponent. Everyone's bigger than me. So I've gotten accustomed to learning strategies. So I kind of just like in closed guard, I try to just hold them there for a little bit until I see an opening. So if you kind of fast forward, like there's a point where she exposes her arm, and then I will shoot up. I'm going for like a triangle here. I'm like trying to pull her head down to break her posture too, keep her down and keep her low, but she does a really good job breaking out and standing up. And so I go for like that tripod sweep, which is one of my go-tos.
So something I want to kind of talk about here is distance management. And I think that for people who are white belts and new, they're not always kind of sure what's happening. Like, why can't I just pass here? Why can't I just do what I want to do? And oftentimes what's happening is somebody is putting some sort of obstruction at your hips, at your body somewhere to keep you from going forward. And at the same time, Jyn gets sticky. So if we like fast forward here,
I love that you say sticky.
sticky. So she starts to grab.
I establish my grips.
Yes. Yeah. Establish the grips, not just with her feet keeping distance, but also with her hands and also that foot here. Right?
Yes.
You guys see that?
Sticky feet, like Martine would say.
Yeah, sticky feet.
Sticky feet.
And then she grabs the foot immediately. So that sets her up perfectly for the tripod sweep, which I love that sweep.
Yeah, there's a lot of space there. So you either you set up for a sweep or you get under too, which is another option that I like to go to.
And with like beautiful. So, I learned this pass actually at Evolve. training center. So
I did too. Yeah, I did too. I learned the X-Pass and the tripod sweep at Evolve Training Center.
So this is a great pass here. We call this, the way you did it too is not like a true like kickback. You know how we do
like a donkey kick kind of
the donkey kickback. Like with Darren, we call it Screama. This is one of the first things I do. It's like you're putting, you can barely see because it's not a great camera angle, you guys, but like she has stuffing the leg and she's putting pressure against it, and then she kind of just swivels her other leg on the other side, and she gets the pass nice and easy.
Yeah, and in my right hand too, with that grip, and keeping my elbow close to like her inner thigh is preventing her from like replacing her guard or like creating like a knee shield. So it's like preventing her from replacing her guard. That's essentially what we want, is like clear space so that we can pass.
There's something here too that like many white belts do, is still holding on to her collar.
Yes.
Which is going to get you arm barred or really quick.
It's super exposed. I totally could have, but like I like to, especially when I roll with like white belts or like lower belts, and just folks who are just starting or getting back into it. So Mahalina's actually trained before, but she's getting back into training, which is I love to hear and I love to see. But I usually go for that armbar if it was like a competitive roll, you know, like, but I want to give more looks and, you know, giving her opportunity to replace her guard. But definitely it's there. Yes. I could totally just like yank it and throw my leg over.
There all day. Something I noticed too, so since I've been primarily focused on gi training, is that simple, she's holding herself up right now by holding your lapel. Yeah. But when we were rolling, something you did is your hand is right there on her sleeve right now, is like actually grabbing the sleeve and lifting somebody up. Yes. Which prevents them from turning into you, which is a good like strength of the gi that no gi doesn't have. Right? Like you can't grab the sleeve and lift somebody up and prevent them from turning away from you. We're able to create a lot more scramble like situations in something like this. It could wrestle up. So I really kind of am really digging this control. I've lost some passion for the gi, I'll admit, but training yesterday with you kind of like ignited curiosity. I'll just say curious. I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. Like, spark some kind of interest of like, okay, maybe you're like gonna explore more into it. I still want to be primarily no-gi, but like there's certain things, like just simple things like this.
Like if you're a white belt, if you're new, if you don't train jiu-jitsu at all, like this higher level, there's like nuances there that I find fascinating versus like big moves like, ashigarami to this great transition. Sometimes it's, for me, it's like something simple like, that sleeve grip and lifting them up is pretty nifty.
I love that you mentioned that, because also to Mahalina's like position, where maybe that's like too late to be grabbing onto that gi. What she should be doing is like letting go and pushing off, creating space, like pushing off on, like creating frames to like push off on my, whether it's like the hip and shoulder, or like the leg, you know, if I'm coming in lower for a pass, then that's something that I think we need to also help coach and train like white belts of like when to let go, right? And when to like transition to something that's, now you're in defense. So you have to, whatever's happening, like in this situation, I'm crowding her because I want to pass. So she needs to create, you know, distance, right? And doing like creating distance by using your hands to push off and like hip escape, get that angle,
or her feet, right?
Her feet,
she has you're kind of crowding her hips a little bit, but she can still use her feet to create distance. Like play with what happens next. You do go for the armbar.
Did I?
But you're nice. You're nice about it.
I didn't finish it because like I wanted to play, and you know, actually at this point, I don't know if you could tell with the video, but my foot got stuck in her in her lapel.
I think I remember
and I was
seeing
like,
that when
and
I was
that's why
that.
I started talking. Like I was like, when you roll, okay, to like white belts and like just general, like you don't generally talk, like you don't, because like sometimes the kids do that and they're like talking, and I'm like, okay, talk later, you know, like, or save your questions for later, like, you know, reviewing later. But yeah, my foot got caught in her thing. But yeah, I did go for the armbar, but like she did a really good job. Like defending. I think I didn't get my left leg over her head.
Your leg is still down there. And she's
really, holding her hand, like her wrist. So
she's pretty strong too.
Good defense. Yeah, she's starting to move really well too. Like, and she mentioned to me the other day too that she's starting to really enjoy jiu-jitsu again. So yay. I'm happy to hear that.
That's all good things.
Yeah. This was a fun roll because I hadn't actually rolled with Mahalina for a while either.
Yeah.
I think this might have been our first time since pre-pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Mahalina.
And shout out to Mahalina too, because she also is the coach for Muay Thai Fitness for our gym at Excelsior Jiu-Jitsu. And she does Tuesday women's class and then co-ed on Saturdays.
I can tell now that makes sense so much with her knees because she's got like very strong knees, knee shields.
Yeah,
for jiu-jitsu. So that makes sense with the knee.
Yeah. Oh, I did. Like,
you got her in a nice shoulder lock.
Yeah, I did one of like my favorite passes too. Like before that, but I mean it works because it's like like for like white belts, obviously, like, you know, I've been training and she's just getting back into it, but definitely when you're rolling with someone like more of like your level, you gotta put, like I was talking about earlier, you gotta use everything. Like can't just have technique. Because
me and you weren't rolling very hard yesterday, so I like
it depends, like what you kind of establish this understanding of like how you want the roll to go
exactly.
But just depending on like when we were at Fight Culture, you and I were doing some no-gi for like no-gi training. Yes. And then we were kind of putting it on, you know, at some point.
Yeah, like we would ramp up and ramp down. I think that's like the joy for me now. It's really important that I have training partners who can do that because not just because I'm old. It's more, I mean, probably because I'm old, I'm respecting my body more. But
they say 40 is the new 20. Hey, I'm just getting started.
It's not that. It's more like I just been in the game long enough. And you know, when you're new and you're a white belt, you don't always, first of all, you don't really know how to execute anything very well to keep yourself protected. And then two, you don't really have that seniority sometimes to choose who your training partners are going to be. Right. So I think like, you know, now it's just like, first of all, I can dictate a roll most of the times. I can dictate the pace. Whether somebody's trying to go ham on me, I can slow them down, or whether I want to ramp them up. But I love to work with people who is like, you know, today is a recovery day for me. Like I just had a heavy practice yesterday. I really, really want to recover. And it's really important for me that I have training partners who respect that because, you know, I've talked about Dr. Stacy Sims' program. Recovery is a huge part of being a great athlete. Yes. And you cannot go into the gym every day going ham.
Like, unless you're 20 years old.
But even if you're 20 years old, you get a whole lot more out of like coming into a training situation, working technique. Like technical training, you know, and then when you go compete, then your body is not injured and it's fresh, so then you can do and perform more. So like just like trying to grind it out for the sake of grinding it out for your own ego is not going to make you better. And so that's something that I've learned. I would say because I am older, but also because of not just age but mileage and just like kind of haven't been there. And I was like, oh wow, I got really good with leg locks when I was just flowing with somebody and not trying to rip at it. So like really trying to find good training partners who know how to calibrate is important to me. And like me and you can calibrate, and we can have unspoken calibration too, which is like really, really great.
You're one of the first people like that I sought out to also train with, like intentionally, you know, like, because I knew that we had that, again, that mutual understanding, and like we're not gonna like kill each other or whatever, but at the same time like challenge each other. Still,
we can be when we're ready to be competitive, we can be competitive, and there's no ego there. But we could also calibrate it down when we want to.
Yeah,
too.
I wanted to say yesterday I noticed too, I appreciated our training because like you put your right foot up a lot, and I was like, okay, that's something that like I can go to De La Riva and like take the back or whatnot, but I also reminded me like of other options like reverse De La Riva. You know, I mean, you know, people who are listening to this right now are new to jiu-jitsu or like not sure what these terms are, but essentially what I'm saying is Vonique gave me different looks for me to kind of ask myself like, okay, what can I do from here? And that's really important with like a training partner, that they give you these positions that you can like challenge yourself and ask like, okay, like think about like, you know, like I can't just go to like my spider guard here, you know, she's not standing up or whatever. Like what are they giving you to kind of like really know your training partner too, and like remember like what their movements are, helps you like grow if you put the time, if you invest like wanting to like learn and get better.
That's what it is. Because if we're killing each other every day, we're mostly going towards our A game. Like pretty much every time.
Makes sense.
And so if like when I am able to calibrate it down and slow down, and I'm really just like focusing on pressure, where are the openings, like, and like I'm trying to explore because I want to expand my game. I don't want to be a one-trick pony. There's times for me where I want to just sharpen my blade, my main effective tool. Yeah. But like when I'm on my off days, I'm really trying to either explore or I like really want to flow technique and like just see options. Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah, like if you can ask yourself when you're training with somebody, like, what can I do from here? Like, that's really good. Like opening, you know, reflection to you could ask, you know, if you're just learning, you know, ask your coach. We have a kiddo who just started with us. He's been training consistently. Shout out Gage. Yeah, he's
Gage.
He's like super awesome because like, I mean, he's young, you know, and he asks questions like all the time. And I'm like, dude, you're not only like helping yourself, like you're helping everyone else that's like here listening to that, and we're benefiting off of like your inquiry. You know what I mean? Because you're curious, right? So hey, curiosity opens doors, and like and you can definitely grow from that too, and it helps us too as teachers, as coaches and everything to relay, you know, like what it is that can happen, or just whatever the question is, right, to address that.
Yes, great place to leave it off. Where do we go from here? Jen, it was wonderful to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vaughn. Awesome. Yeah, I had so much fun. Like this felt so natural and organic, and yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. See y'all on the flip. See ya.
Yay.
Yes.
Awesome.